Hello and welcome to Big Scott 35 Nerdy Thursday. Today's 12/8/22. I'm going to show you a couple things I picked up this week. I got contacted by some people about my pops in the video of showing off my card room. So what I did was pick up some more, and I like to show them off a little bit. So for this holiday season, Pops have come out with snowmen. I have found the Boba Fett. I actually found this at a secondhand store already, and then I did see the R2D2 and C3PO at Walmart. But they do have the Darth Vader and Stormtrooper, and that's the ones I kind of would like to have if I run across it. If not, oh well, not a big loss. But I just saw this, thought it was funny, had to pick it up. And then for my Batman collection, this is Batgirl from the DC Comics Bombshells collection. A few years ago, they did like kind of like how the Disney also did with their princesses line. DC did it with their females. They kind of did a 50s homage to them, and glammed them up like 50 style a little bit, and did the DC Comics Bombshells. And there are all kinds of figures for that line, and Batgirl. It just looked cool. So again, if it looks cool, it'll go in my collection if I like it. Might not be cool to you, but I like it. Next off, so what I told you, I do comic books. So I did read this Walking Dead, which is it's volume 26 called Arms. Little behind, trying to, I got into this late when the show came out, and I mean, you could just roll through these, but of course, I just don't read this. So I kind of got away from it a little bit and got back into it when I moved here. Finally, finally situated here, got my schedule down now, so I kind of could do things. So I finally read this, and this is several comic books into one. I forget what they call this. I think it's the monthly, or it's not the omnibus. That's the book. So I do like the cover art on these that I have. So I kept these when I sold my Walking Dead stuff, but the books I kept. This one. Just a quick synopsis is so if you watch the show isn't exactly. The show's taken from this, but they'll change. Like certain things might happen to another character out of order, things like that. So you're not really, completely know what's going on. They do a little bit better job, I think, than they did with the Dragon one on HBO. So I read that too. So the Fire and Ice books. So the this one here is Negan actually escapes instead of being let out, and he goes to the Whispers. And it's not as dragged out as it was in the show. It goes right to it. He takes out the Alpha, and at the end of this book, he wants to prove to the people that had him jailed that he's changed. So that's where I'm at in this. I haven't picked up the 27. I have 28. Picked it up cheap. So, so I'm not quite to where we're at in the TV show. I was way ahead. So when I was watching the TV show, I was like, wow, what's going to happen here and all of that. But The Walking Dead, people are like, oh, it's not all. It's about the humans than it is the zombies, and I think people get confused on who the Walking Dead is sometimes. Sometimes it's the people in it, sometimes it's the zombies, sometimes it's a mixture of the two. So it's all of that into one. It's a very Kirkman caught lightning in a bottle with this, and I can't wait to see the spinoffs. A lot of it is a lot of the ones with the children was recorded in my area in Virginia, where I'm from. So that's always cool when I was watching that, just try to figure out where they were at. So it's just awesome to kind of watch all this. So the story, I can see where people kind of drifted away. It can get a little stale at times on the TV show, but the comic book is just like, boom in your face. Let's say, I said last week I wasn't going to show cards on here, but I will. It's my channel. I can do what I want. And the reason I am is because I did open up a box of the Boba Fett 10. I wanted the 10 as more, but I was saying before, I've said before, like, I don't like scenes cards. And this is what I'll talk about. Like, this is a scene card, right? It's not a card like this. These are the portrait card. Now, they did have these. There were several. And Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters. So, believe it or not, I'll send that off to get graded because Ahsoka's who I collect. And stormtroopers, so that I love. Also got the chief of the Sand People, which is an awesome card. So that's going to go in a book. I just love that. It was a beautiful card. But this one is the one I wanted to show. This one, and this was the autograph. Now most people will be like, it's so I looked this person up. Lalina Shiu is her name, and she's a little person, but she's been in all the new. She's a Jawa. If you see one of the Jawas in anything on the Disney Channel, pretty much that's been produced since Star Wars went to Disney, she's a Jawa, and I love to have this. I'll be getting this one graded as well. It's a character card. It's better than Officer, which I've gotten before in higher end stuff. So, this is a low end product. So to have that, and it's a green number to 75. If you care about that, Mr. Westergriff, me and him have talked about non-sports cards. And if you just want the auto, the numbering doesn't mean much. But back to the other one, this is a metal. It's heavy. It's got weight to it. It's a 1-on-1. I'm pretty sure that's probably the case hit. If you know that character at all, he's funny. He's usually a dry character. He's also been in some dramas, but usually he's a character most of the time. And the back group characters is who I liked. I was sad when they died in the Boba Fett story. The Grimorians, they were good. They're kind of a comical. They're like Keystone Cops to me, but actually in there they did whatever. They protected Boba Fett, especially against the Wookiee. But they do have the autographs of Boba Fett, the character that plays him. The woman that plays his was it Shando Finda or whatever, his right hand person. They do have the guy that played Cad Bane, which Cad Bane, this is the first time they have a live action Cad Bane, and unless they do prequels, it won't be another one. So if you watch this one at all, but they didn't have the guy that played Voss. He was also in The Mandalorian. I was a little disappointed at, but They have a lot of character actors in this one, and they do have a couple of the main characters. I don't think they had what's his face that played the Rancor uh, guy. I looked at it last night at who you could possibly get in it, because it usually in these low ends, if they're in it, it's tough to get, and most of the time they don't have the big characters in them. But now we talked about a little Star Wars. I got to talk a little Star Wars. Let's get to what my main thing is for this show. This one today is my Dreamcast collection. So I'm trying to collect the Dreamcast the Dreamcast CDs, at least the American ones. If I pick up some other ones, it'll be awesome too. I was hoping to get a number of how many they are, because it wasn't a very long. It was released in uh, September 9th, 1999, and it wasn't out for just very long. It was discontinued in 2001. So, and they sold 9.13 million units worldwide. So that's not a lot. I do have one. And I'll talk a little bit more about it here later. So these are some games I picked up at the secondhand store that I got the pops. Now, when I did exchange stuff to get up, when I was selling off stuff to downsize, I got a voucher. So I got all this stuff with the voucher. So NBA 2K1, yeah, sports games, not expensive, and most of them, there's only one NCAA football game. It's the last one when EA got sued by the players for using their name likeness, not necessarily their names, but the numbers and likenesses. But what you want to do while showing this is you want to look for pinholes for disk rot, because any pinhole is lost data, where you can see all the way through. A scratch on the top won't do anything. Even scratches on the bottom, if it's not deep, you can get them buffed out. But when you see a pinhole, that's actually lost data, and it's called disk rot. Really, you can do the best you can. There's no rhyme or reason for it. The best thing you do is make sure it's out of sunlight and not like in saltwater air or something like that. That's the best you can do for it, and hope for the best. It's PS1, Dreamcast, PS2 games are starting to show a little bit, but it's just, and it's not on all of them. It's no rhyme or reason. It's just something to check for when you're purchasing games, without having to see if it actually runs or not while you're at the stores. Just a step to do before. This one here, Blue Stinger. These next three were kind of pricey. That's what I was saying. That's why I'm glad I had the voucher. So I went ahead and picked up all of them, and I think I actually came out of pocket like $20. So I was okay, because I actually bought these, and the pops. Oh, in the Walking Dead book. I was like, I know I bought something else. So this one here, and I didn't even know this game exists. I'd never heard of it. But see, that's games like that are the ones that are going to be expensive. The ones that are under the radar. There's not a lot of copies out there. And the reason why there's not a lot of copies, they either didn't sell well. Doesn't mean it's a bad game. A lot of times they just won't promote it well, or it's a bad game. Or most likely it's at the end of the run of the system, and this system wasn't out very long. So, once it's at the end of the life cycle of a system, people move on to the next thing, just like anything else. And those games don't get second printings and things like that. So there's least amount, or it might not. You see a lot now where it's like a greatest hits. They don't do those if it's later in the cycle. And they might do it for the other system that comes out to replace it, but it won't be on the system that it was originally on. They do a lot of remakes now and things like that, so they can add stuff to it, make it look prettier, extend the game, make more money off of the games that people really like. And of course, if it's a Star Wars game, Jedi Power Battles, Episode 1, I believe this is not a very good game. If I remember correctly, Star Wars Pod Racer is a great game. Legos, all the Legos Star Wars games are great. It's tough. Like some of the computer games, when you do the role-playing games, but games like this, a lot of times, they just use the name and they're very blah. So it was a little pricey, but the reason is it wasn't a very good game. And then we get back to Dreamcast. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Dreamcast a little bit. So bear with me for a minute. I'll share my screen. There we have it. So this is the Sega Dreamcast, if you're not aware. So now we got my little buddy on here. So this right here is where this is actually got where you put your where you can save your games and stuff like that. This screen right here, a lot of times when you're playing a game, some games that have your map on it, sometimes it just has the name of the game. Sometimes it'll have information for the game, and you can take this out, and some of the games you can actually play on this right here. But it was kind of ahead of its time. Dreamcast was way ahead of its time, I think. And I just don't think people understood really the system. Now, for me, I was one of them. So I went with the PlayStation, and I was at a time in 1999. I was, still finding my way in the world. Buying video games and systems wasn't on my list of things. I older 20-year-old, but I was still living paycheck to paycheck. But you could have 4 controllers in the system itself. PlayStation, you would have had to get an attachment to put the other controllers on. Nintendo, same way. So this had in the back, the Ethernet. You have a port for that for online play right in the look at it. It's not as big as the Xbox, but it had the port on it. You had let's see what else. The drawback controller. So you see the controller plugged in pointing towards you instead of on this side. That was the biggest drawback to the controller system. I like the controller because it's a bigger controller for my hands. It's not hard for me to get my thumbs around it. I know some people had a problem with that as well. But the cord, and the cords are long. These are one of the systems that had a longer cord. But the cord is plugged in facing you. And that was like the big drawback at the time. So it just didn't have the push. It does have some great games. Shenmue, I have Fantasy Star Online, Jet Set Radio, which I don't understand it, but I have it. Crazy Taxi, have that. Most people know those. It does still, if you hook it up online, some games still are playable online. I think there's communities out there that keep the games going, from my understanding, which is awesome. I really don't get into that part of it, but I will. I have I like to play my Resident Evils, my older ones, on this system. I just like the way they play. Uh, so it did come out at the same time as PS2, but I had the PS2, so I was buying games for that. Uh, at the time, I was a PlayStation guy. So that, in a nutshell, that's the Dreamcast. If you've never seen it before, and I can't. I thought I had a list of how many games uh, was on it, and the reason I just feel like I missed out on a better system, and now I'm just going back and reliving something I missed. I feel like in my, I can't say my childhood. I was 28 years old when this came out, so I can't say it was my childhood. But I was playing the heck out of my PS2 with my friends. Let's see here. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. It doesn't say how many games on here. I know I can look it up. I have a way to look it up, but I'm not gonna look it up now. It's not that big of a deal. So that's a little bit of the Dreamcast. So that's kind of what I want to do on these shows, is kind of, pick something. Let's geek out a little bit together. And, if I had information, if you have more information to chat about it, love to. I might even get a game share later on, and that way I can play some of the games and show you game footage, some stuff later on. That's been my wish for numbers of years, is to do that, and so I don't know. It gives me a reason to play a little bit. I got to show you guys. I have to play. So that is it for Nerdy Thursday. I hope you like it. If you did, please like and share. And I will see y'all Saturday, which I'll talk more about what's on the screen now. Until then, see ya.